The United Earth Alliance was a joke to the galactic community. Everyone knew it, especially Commander Jack Reed as he stood rigid and stoic on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, humanity's supposed most advanced starship. It was anything but advanced by galactic standards. "Look at this outdated interface," muttered Officer Bell from her station. "We might as well be using steam engines compared to what's out there." Reed didn't respond. His mind was still replaying the humiliating scenes from the Galactic Council meeting 3 weeks prior. The memory made his jaw clench. The Grand Council chamber had towered around the human delegation, 12 representatives from Earth standing uncomfortably before thousands of alien diplomats. The chamber itself was a marvel of fifth-dimensional engineering, parts of it existing in states humans couldn't fully perceive. The effect made several delegation members nauseous. Ambassador Trell of the Voidborn had approached the human group, his gelatinous form shifting colors in what Reed later learned was an expression of amusement and contempt. "Your species cannot even perceive beyond 3 dimensions properly," Trell had announced, his translator converting his bubble pops into clear standard galactic. "Yet you wish to claim equal standing among civilizations that navigate fifth-dimensional corridors as casually as you walk your primitive streets." The other council members, beings of light, crystalline structures, and forms defying human categorization, had emitted sounds that the translators identified as laughter. "The humans believe they can join our trade routes with ships that take months to travel between star systems," added Representative Vox of the Mindswarm Collective. "My consciousness can transfer across the galaxy in seconds." More laughter. Reed had watched as General Pat Martinez, head of the Earth delegation, attempted to maintain dignity. "Humanity may be young in galactic terms, but we learn quickly. We seek only fair treatment and knowledge exchange." Knowledge exchange. Ambassador Trell's body had rippled violently. "What could you possibly offer us? Your most advanced theories barely grasp concepts our younglings understand instinctively." The Council had then voted. The result was crushing but expected. Earth would be granted limited trade rights with 3 nearby systems. All other galactic territories remained off-limits. Human ships could be stopped and searched by any Council race at any time. Earth would not receive access to dimensional technology beyond simple FTL drives, which were already considered primitive by galactic standards. "Know your place," Trell had said as the humans prepared to leave. "Perhaps in 1,000 years, you might be ready for real participation." Now, weeks later on the Pathfinder's bridge, Reed stared at the holographic display showing their patrol route near Europa. This was what humanity had been reduced to: glorified security guards in their own solar system, while advanced beings zipped across the galaxy through higher dimensions. "Commander, incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Communications Officer Davis. "Priority Alpha." Reed frowned. Priority Alpha was reserved for emergencies or significant discoveries. "Put it through to my ready room," he ordered, stepping away from the bridge. The message was brief but world-changing. All command-level officers were being recalled to Earth immediately. Something had been discovered on Proxima Centauri b, something that might change humanity's standing forever. As the Pathfinder altered course for Earth, Reed felt a strange hope building in his chest. For the first time since the Council meeting, he allowed himself to imagine a future where humans weren't the laughingstock of the galaxy. Little did he know that in just 6 months, no advanced species would be laughing at humanity ever again. Dr. Jane Wells wiped sweat from her brow as she carefully brushed dirt from the strange crystal structure. The underground chamber on Proxima Centauri b was hot and stuffy despite the cooling units humming in the corner. She had been working here for 10 years, studying the ruins of an ancient civilization that had vanished long before humans had even developed writing. "Pass me the scanner, Mark," she said to her assistant who stood nearby, recording the excavation. Mark handed her the device, his eyes never leaving the glowing blue crystal formation embedded in the chamber wall. "What do you think it is, Doctor?" Jane ran the scanner across the surface. The readings made no sense at first. "That's impossible," she whispered. "What's wrong?" Mark moved closer. Nothing's wrong. But these readings, this isn't just a crystal. It's active. There's energy flowing through it. Jane's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the scanner settings. And there's some kind of script carved into it. The markings were tiny and precise, unlike the broader pictographs they'd found elsewhere in the ruins. Jane had spent years developing a partial translation matrix for the alien language. She connected her scanner to her tablet and waited as the program processed the symbols. My God, she breathed as the first translations appeared on screen. Mark peered over her shoulder. What does it say? It's not just a power source, she said, her voice barely audible. It's something they called a dimensional anchor point. These beings, they weren't just exploring space. They were exploring dimensions. Dimensions? Like time travel? Mark asked. Jane shook her head. No, not exactly. More like reality layers. The translation indicates they found ways to move between different dimensional states. She looked up at the crystal with newfound awe. This technology is beyond anything the current galactic powers possess. Within hours, the discovery site was swarming with additional research teams. 3 days later, the entire excavation was classified at the highest level by the United Earth Alliance. Military personnel established a perimeter, and a temporary research facility was built around the chamber. General Martinez arrived personally to oversee the operation. Jane watched as he studied the crystal matrix, his face stern but his eyes betraying excitement. Dr. Wells, what can this technology do for us? He asked bluntly. Based on our preliminary translations, this civilization had mastered travel through at least 7 dimensions, Jane explained. The galactic powers we encountered only utilized 5-dimensional travel at most. So we could leapfrog them. Move faster, go farther. Jane hesitated. It's more than that, General. 5th-dimensional travel lets you move through space-time efficiently, but 7th-dimensional travel would allow movement through different possibilities, different versions of reality itself. Martinez stared at her. Are you saying we could change reality? Not exactly. We could exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Our ships could be in multiple places at once. They could shift between states of being that other species can't even perceive. The implications hung in the air between them. After a long moment, Martinez nodded. How quickly can you reverse engineer this technology? General, this is thousands, maybe millions of years beyond our current understanding. It could take decades. We don't have decades, Doctor. The consortium treats us like children playing with toys we don't understand. Meanwhile, they restrict our expansion and exploit our resources. His voice hardened. I need results within months, not years. Jane looked back at the crystal. There's something else. The beings who built this, they vanished suddenly. The records don't explain why. Are you suggesting this technology destroyed them? I'm saying we should be careful. Martinez squared his shoulders. Earth has been careful for too long, Doctor. Now we need to be bold. As the general walked away, Jane turned back to the ancient crystal. Its blue glow pulsed gently, as if alive, as if waiting. Admiral Bill Porter stood at the observation window of Neptune Station, staring at the massive construction project unfolding before him. The shipyard, hidden in Neptune's shadow and shielded from long-range scanners, buzzed with activity. Engineers in spacesuits moved like tiny insects across the frame of what would become humanity's greatest achievement, the UES horizon. Impressive, isn't it? Asked Dr. Wells, joining him at the window. She looked tired. Dark circles shadowed her eyes after months of non-stop work. Porter nodded. Is it going to work? The dimensional matrix is stable. We've successfully integrated the crystal technology into the ship's core systems. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But there are still many unknowns. We don't have time for every answer, Doctor. The consortium grows more hostile each day. The Neptune station had been built in secret over the past 6 months. Earth had claimed it was a deep space monitoring facility. Technically true, as it did monitor space. just not in the way they had implied. The real purpose was Project Transcendence, humanity's desperate attempt to leap beyond their galactic neighbors. "The engineering team is ready for your address, Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Fisher. Porter straightened his uniform and followed Fisher to the main assembly hall. 300 of Earth's brightest minds stood waiting. Physicists, engineers, mathematicians, and specialists in fields that hadn't even existed a year ago. Porter stepped onto the small platform and looked out at the assembled team. Many looked as tired as Dr. Wells. Some showed signs of excitement, others fear. 6 months ago, Porter began, his voice echoing through the hall. Humanity stood before the Galactic Council as beggars, asking for scraps from their technological table. Today, we stand on the verge of something they can't even imagine. He gestured toward the wall screen showing the partially completed horizon. Unlike conventional ships, its hull had a strange, fluid quality, seeming to shift and ripple even when stationary. "This isn't just about catching up," Porter continued. "This is about leapfrogging their dimensional understanding entirely. While they master 5 dimensions, we will harness 7. Dr. Wells stepped forward with a tablet and activated a holographic display in the center of the room. A complex, shifting model appeared, representing dimensional layers folding through each other. The ancient civilization that Dr. Wells discovered on Proxima Centauri b understood something fundamental about reality that even the advanced consortium races haven't grasped, Porter explained. Space, time, and possibility exist as layers that can be navigated with the right technology. Wells manipulated the display, showing how the ship would theoretically move through these dimensional layers. When completed, the horizon will exist partially in our dimension and partially in others simultaneously. It will be able to appear in multiple locations at once. It will be able to phase through solid matter. It will be beyond the understanding of fifth-dimensional technology. A young engineer raised her hand. "Sir, what about the power requirements?" "The current calculations suggest we'd need the energy output of a small star." Porter nodded to Dr. Wells, who answered, "The dimensional crystal matrix actually draws energy from the dimensional boundaries themselves. The more dimensions we cross, the more power becomes available." "And the risks?" asked another engineer. "We still don't know what happened to the civilization that created this technology." Porter's expression hardened. "Every great leap carries risk. But the greater risk is allowing the consortium to continue treating humanity as inferior. They restrict our colonies, limit our technology, and laugh at our attempts to join galactic society as equals." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of key team members. "We have 3 months until the Horizon's first test. I expect everyone here to work as if Earth's future depends on it, because it does." As the meeting ended, Porter pulled Dr. Wells aside. "Are you still having those dreams?" he asked quietly. She nodded, her face pale. "Every night. Strange voices speaking in languages I don't know. Warnings, maybe. Or excitement for what we're about to achieve," Porter suggested. Wells didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue either. The emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council began at 3:00 a.m. Earth Standard Time. President Laura Doyle arrived last, her face tight with worry, as she took her seat at the head of the table. The room, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in the old Nidorati complex, was designed to withstand anything short of a direct antimatter strike. "What's the situation?" she asked without preamble. Admiral Porter activated the holographic display at the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map of the Tau Ceti system appeared, with red markers indicating a large fleet moving toward the human colony there. 30 minutes ago, our deep space monitoring station detected a consortium battle fleet exiting 5th-dimensional space near Tau Ceti, Porter explained. 42 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Shocked murmurs filled the room. The colony at Tau Ceti was humanity's farthest outpost, home to nearly 50,000 people. "Have they made any demands?" asked Defense Secretary Wilson. As if in answer, the communications officer stepped forward. "Madam President, we've just received this transmission. It was broadcast on all frequencies. The hologram shifted to show Ambassador Trell, his gelatinous form now a dark red. A color humans had learned indicated aggressive intent. "Attention, primitive Earth government." The translated message began. "The Galactic Consortium has determined that your species has violated Treaty Article 17 by attempting to develop technology beyond your approved advancement path. Additionally, your colonization of Ta City violates the restricted expansion zones established for pre-fifth dimensional civilizations." Trell's form pulsed as he continued. "You have one standard galactic year to withdraw all colonies beyond your Mars orbital path and surrender any experimental technology developed in the past Earth year. Failure to comply will result in corrective action. This is not negotiable." The message ended. Silence filled the room. "They know," Dr. Wells whispered. "They know about Project Transcendence." Porter nodded grimly. "Our research stations have detected unusual probe activity near Neptune in recent weeks. We thought our shielding was adequate, but clearly they suspected something." "What are our options?" President Doyle asked. "Ta City is 8 light years away. Our fastest conventional ships would take months to get there. Their ultimatum gives us a year. But that fleet sitting at Ta City tells me they don't plan to wait," said General Martinez. "I believe this is a preemptive strike disguised as a warning." Secretary Wilson leaned forward. "Our conventional forces can't stand against a consortium fleet. Even with all Earth's military ships, we'd be outnumbered and outgunned 10-1. All eyes turned to Admiral Porter. "Is the horizon ready?" President Doyle asked directly. Porter exchanged glances with Dr. Wells before answering. "For a test run, yes. The dimensional drive has been successfully tested in controlled environments. But for what you're suggesting, it's untested in combat scenarios." "Will it work?" Doyle pressed. "The theory is sound," Dr. Wells said cautiously. "The ship can enter seventh dimensional space and theoretically appear anywhere almost instantly. Its weapon systems can operate across dimensional boundaries, making them nearly impossible to defend against." "But," Doyle caught the hesitation in her voice, "but we haven't completed full integration testing of all systems. And more importantly, we haven't tested the psychological effects of seventh dimensional travel on the crew. The simulator tests show disturbing results in some cases." Porter cleared his throat. "Madam President, I recommend we deploy the Horizon immediately despite the risks. We've selected the best crew candidates, those who showed minimal psychological disturbance during simulation. Commander Jack Reed will command the mission." "Reed?" Martinez looked surprised. "The officer from the Pathfinder. He scored highest on the dimensional aptitude tests," Porter explained. "His mind seems naturally attuned to multidimensional thinking." President Doyle stood and walked to the window, looking out at the pre-dawn darkness. 50,000 colonists were depending on her decision. Potentially the future of the human species. She turned back to the room. "It's our only option. Admiral Porter, prepare the Horizon for immediate deployment to Ta City." As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Wells pulled Porter aside. "We need to tell Reed about the dreams," she whispered. "If he starts experiencing them in seventh dimensional space." Porter cut her off. "We tell him only what he needs to know. Earth's survival comes first." Commander Jack Reed stared at his new orders in disbelief. After years commanding the outdated UES Pathfinder, he was being reassigned to a vessel he'd never even heard of, the UES Horizon. The transfer orders were marked with the highest security classification, requiring immediate implementation. 6 hours later, a military shuttle brought Reed to Neptune Station. As the shuttle approached, he pressed his face to the viewport, searching for signs of the mysterious ship. He saw nothing but the massive station partly hidden in Neptune's shadow. "Commander Reed," greeted Admiral Porter as Reed stepped off the shuttle. "Welcome to Project Transcendence." "Sir, my orders didn't specify the nature of this assignment." Porter nodded. "Follow me." They walked through corridors bustling with military and scientific personnel until reaching a special observation deck. Porter activated a panel, and the window's filtering changed. Reed gasped. Where empty space had appeared moments before, a ship now hung in the void. But calling it a ship seemed inadequate. The horizon had no definite shape. Its hull rippled and flowed like liquid metal, occasionally becoming transparent enough to reveal glimpses of something else, something his mind couldn't quite process. "What am I looking at, sir?" Reed managed to ask. "Humanity's first seventh-dimensional vessel," Porter replied with undisguised pride. "Conventional vision can't perceive it fully. The window filters help translate some of its properties into visible light." Dr. Jane Wells joined them, extending her hand to Reed. "Commander, I've read your file. Your dimensional aptitude scores are remarkable." "Dimensional aptitude," Reed echoed. "I wasn't aware such tests existed." "They didn't until 6 months ago," Wells explained, "when certain discoveries were made." Over the next 3 hours, Reed learned the truth about the Proxima Centauri ruins, the ancient technology, and the desperate race to build the Horizon as Earth's last defense against the consortium. "Your crew will be limited to 11 specialists besides yourself," Porter explained as they walked toward the briefing room. "Each has been selected for their unique mental resilience to dimensional shifts. And our mission: intercept the consortium fleet at Ta City, demonstrate our new capabilities, force them to recognize humanity as equals or better." The briefing room contained Reed's new crew. They rose as he entered, a mix of scientists and military personnel, all looking as confused as he felt. "These are the best minds we have," Dr. Wells said. "Lieutenant Ray Davidson, Weapons Systems; Dr. Lisa Park, Dimensional Physics; Major Tom Green, Tactical; Lieutenant Emma Ward, Navigation." Reed studied their faces as the introductions continued. These strangers would form his crew on a mission that might determine humanity's fate. "When do we depart?" Reed asked when the introductions finished. "Immediately," Porter replied. "The Horizon is ready, and the situation at Ta City grows more precarious by the hour." 4 hours later, after hasty briefings on ship systems unlike anything in Reed's experience, the crew boarded the Horizon. The interior was as strange as the exterior. Corridors that seemed to extend further than physically possible, rooms that shifted configuration based on need, and control interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. "Prepare for dimensional drive activation," Reed ordered from what passed for a bridge. A circular room where reality itself seemed thinner. Dr. Park initiated the sequence. "Commander, I should warn you, seventh-dimensional travel is nothing like conventional or even fifth-dimensional FTL. The experience is difficult to describe." "Will we survive it?" Reed asked bluntly. "Physical survival, yes. Mental, that varies by individual," she replied honestly. Reed addressed his crew. "Our mission is simple but crucial. We show the consortium that humanity is not to be trifled with. Whatever happens next, remember you're making history." The dimensional drive began to hum, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Seventh dimensional transition in 5 seconds, announced Dr. Park. Reed gripped his command chair. For Earth. The horizon shimmered, folded in on itself, and vanished from conventional space. The voyage that would change humanity's place in the galaxy had begun. Commander Jack Reed had never experienced anything like seventh-dimensional travel. His consciousness seemed to expand beyond his body, perceiving realities that layered upon each other like pages in a book. He saw versions of himself making different choices, living different lives. He witnessed the birth and death of stars simultaneously. Time stretched and compressed around him. "Status report," he managed to say, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears, as if he were speaking from multiple mouths at once. "All crew accounted for," reported Major Green, his face pale but composed. "Dimensional drive functioning within parameters." Dr. Park monitored her instruments with wide eyes. "We're everywhere and nowhere, Commander." The seventh dimension allows us to exist across multiple probability states simultaneously. Can we return to normal space? Reed asked. Theoretically, yes. We need to collapse our dimensional signature to a single point, specifically Tau Ceti. Reed nodded. Do it. The ship shuddered as reality folded around them. For a moment, Reed saw glimpses of infinite possibilities. Earths where humans never evolved, galaxies where stars followed different physical laws, universes where thought itself was the primary building block of reality. Then suddenly, it all collapsed into a single point of existence. The horizon returned to conventional space, directly in the center of the consortium fleet at Tau Ceti. Sensors online, Lieutenant Ward announced. 37 consortium warships surrounding us in standard attack formation. Reed's tactical display showed the massive alien vessels, each one dwarfing any ship humanity had built before the horizon. Their weapon systems were powering up, but they hadn't fired yet. Reed suspected they were too shocked by the horizon's sudden appearance. Open communications, Reed ordered. Before Communications Officer Bell could comply, the main view screen activated automatically. Human vessel, you will power down and surrender immediately, demanded a tall, crystalline being, Admiral Kresh of the consortium fleet. Your presence here violates multiple treaty provisions. Reed straightened in his chair. This is Commander Jack Reed of the United Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. We are here to discuss your threats against our colony. There is nothing to discuss. Kresh's crystal structure flashed with angry colors. You will withdraw from this system, and all systems beyond your home planet as ordered. Reed nodded to Dr. Park. Activate dimensional field projections. Park's fingers danced across her console, and the horizon began to shimmer. Reed felt that strange sensation again, existence stretching across multiple states of reality. The consortium comms exploded with panic. What is that? How are they? Impossible. On the tactical display, Reed watched as the horizon seemed to multiply, appearing simultaneously at different points around the consortium fleet. Yet they were not copies. It was the same ship existing in multiple locations at once. Target their flagship with dimensional phase disruptors, Reed ordered. Warning shot only. Lieutenant Davidson hesitated just a moment before firing. A beam of energy that shifted between states of matter lanced out from the horizon, passing directly through the consortium flagship shields as if they didn't exist. The beam stopped just millimeters from the ship's hull, hovering there, a deadly promise. This is impossible. Admiral Kresh's voice had lost its arrogance. No pre-fifth dimensional species called. We've moved beyond fifth dimensional understanding, Reed interrupted. Your fleet is currently surrounded by seventh dimensional field projections. Should you fire upon our colony, we can collapse your ships into singularities without firing a single conventional weapon. Silence filled the communications channel. Reed could see the alien admiral consulting frantically with others off-screen. Admiral Kresh, Reed continued, his voice firm but not threatening. Humanity has evolved beyond what you believed possible. We've discovered the technology of those who came before both our civilizations. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend our people. The consortium ship's weapons slowly powered down. The Galactic Council will hear of this, Kresh said finally, his crystalline form dimmed with what might have been fear. We're counting on it, Reed replied. It's time for new negotiations, as equals. As the consortium fleet began to withdraw to a safe distance, Reed exchanged glances with his crew. They had done it. They had faced down the most powerful fleet in the galaxy without firing a shot in anger. But Reed knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would come when the galaxy realized what humanity had become. 3 weeks after the Tau Ceti confrontation, Commander Jack Reed stood before the Galactic Council. The grand chamber that had once intimidated the human delegation now felt different to him. After experiencing seventh-dimensional space, the fifth-dimensional architecture seemed almost primitive. The council members watched him with a mixture of fear, respect, and suspicion. Gone was their mocking laughter. Gone were the dismissive gestures. Now, they listened. "The United Earth Alliance thanks the Council for this emergency session," Reed began. "We come not as conquerors, but as a species seeking its rightful place among the stars." Ambassador Trell's gelatinous form had shifted to a pale blue, a color that Dr. Wells had told Reed indicated caution and uncertainty. "Your ship violated fundamental physical laws," Trell stated, his voice lacking its usual condescension. "Our scientists cannot explain how your vessel existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Because your understanding is limited to 5 dimensions," Reed explained simply. "The ancient civilization that preceded all of us mastered travel through 7 dimensions. Humanity has rediscovered their technology." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Reed could see the various council species communicating rapidly among themselves. President Laura Doyle stepped forward to join Reed. She had arrived at the council station aboard the Horizon, a journey that had taken seconds instead of months. "For too long, humanity has been treated as children playing with toys we don't understand," she said, echoing General Martinez's words from months ago. "We were denied access to technology, restricted in our expansion, and mocked for our limitations. The technology you possess is dangerous," warned Representative Vox of the Mindswarm Collective. "The ancients vanished suddenly. Many believe their dimensional experiments destroyed them." Dr. Wells, who stood with the human delegation, stepped forward. "We've translated more of their records. They didn't destroy themselves. They evolved beyond physical form entirely. They ascended to a pure energy state, existing across all dimensions simultaneously." This revelation caused even greater commotion in the chamber. Admiral Porter, who had traveled with them on the Horizon, addressed the council next. "Humanity does not seek dominance or revenge for past treatment. We seek partnership, but it must be partnership among equals." The council leaders conferred privately for nearly an hour before Chief Counselor Mal of the Elder Worlds addressed the human delegation. "The Galactic Consortium acknowledges humanity's technological achievement and recognizes Earth as a 7th-dimensional capable civilization with all rights and responsibilities thereof." The ancient being's voice echoed through the chamber. "All previous restrictions on human expansion and technology development are hereby rescinded." It was a complete victory, yet Reed felt strangely hollow as the formal proceedings continued. The 7th-dimensional journeys had changed him. In the quiet moments when the ship traveled between realities, he had glimpsed something beyond even the 7th dimension, something the ancients had discovered before their ascension. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to Earth aboard the Horizon, Reed found Dr. Wells staring out at the stars. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" she asked without turning. "What lies beyond the 7th dimension?" Reed nodded, though she couldn't see it. "It's calling to us." "The dreams are stronger now," Wells admitted. "Not warnings after all. Invitations." "Humanity isn't ready," Reed said. "We need time to grow into our new place in the galaxy." Wells finally turned to face him. "But someday." Reed smiled. "Someday. One step at a time." As the Horizon prepared for the journey home, the ship's 7th-dimensional drive humming with power, Reed looked at the faces of his crew. They had done what no humans had done before, forced the galaxy to respect their species not through violence but through advancement. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Humanity celebrated their new status in the galactic community. Schools began teaching 7th-dimensional mathematics. New ships were designed with the advanced technology. But few knew the truth that Reed, Wells, and a handful of others carried within them. The knowledge that the 7th dimension was not the end of the journey, but merely another beginning. As Admiral Porter had said at the celebration dinner that night, raising his glass in a toast, "They're not laughing anymore. Now, they're watching to see what we'll do next." The age of human subjugation was over. The age of human ascendance had begun.